Yoda brothers, what's up? It's the director. Chargers fans, we got a video for you guys today revolving around Desmond King. There's trade rumors floating around out there. There's people thinking, hey, maybe we should trade Desmond King before his contract, expires this upcoming season. So I don't know, man. There's some pros, there's some cons. I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts and the reason as to why these rumors have been floating around in the first place. I understand this first Chargers video in a minute. I'm sorry, guys. Lots of Madden 21 stuff coming up, but the consistency of the Chargers stuff should return here to normal very soon. Well, guys, if you like these kinds of Chargers content, hit us up with a like and sub. Small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps out a lot. Let's get into this video. So, Desmond King. I would argue Desmond King a couple of seasons ago really hit that pocket where he was really good. Probably one of the best slot receivers in the NFL. Last season, we saw a little bit of a dip. We saw, maybe Desmond King struggle a little bit, both in his assignments as, punt kick returner, down to his assignments in the corner or in the slot cornerback position. But there's no doubt in our minds that Desmond King is, in my opinion, a proven player. We've seen it. We know it exists within Desmond King, and he makes up a pretty important position for the Chargers defense. You guys think about the Chargers defense. We have one of the most stacked secondaries in the league. Casey Hayward, Chris Harris Jr., Desmond King, who is in that conversation, Derwin James, obviously probably our best, defensive back player on the roster, and then guys emerging, maybe like Nasir Adderley and Lohi Gilman and guys like that. But Desmond King, there's been some question as to what his role is going to be in the 2020 season. I feel like if it were up to me, I'd want to keep Desmond King at the slot. Maybe have him share that position with Chris Harris Jr. The big reason there's any speculation at all is because of Chris Harris Jr. Chris Harris Jr. came onto the team and said, I want to add to this secondary. I'm very good in the slot. They've tried him. The Broncos tried him on the outside, maybe with a little bit less success, but he definitely wasn't bad on the outside. Chris Harris Jr. is one of the best cornerbacks from the last decade. And so you put him out there, maybe versus, I don't know, Michael Davis on this roster. I think Chris Harris is going to take that role and give us better results by far. Now, Desmond King also has some speculation revolving around him moving positions. I think when he was drafted, there was some conversation about him moving to safety. And maybe it's not your typical, high safety. Maybe it's some more of a hybrid safety, something we saw, we're very familiar with a guy like Adrian Phillips. Adrian Phillips was a great, piece of that defense. You could move around, put him in the box, leave him out high. He was very good. He was a versatile player. And that's I think somebody out there at the Chargers organization has a vision for Desmond King, maybe moving to that position, playing that hybrid position like Adrian Phillips did. But do I want to see that? I'm not quite so sure. I really like what I've seen at a Desmond King from the slot cornerback position. I think maybe a down year does not define a player for me. A down year does raise concerns that you have to pay attention to, concerns that require you to go back and watch some tape on. But in no means do I think Desmond King is washed up. The guy is great. The guy is young. The guy has potential that we've seen on the team already. So these trade rumors floating around, they do warrant some concern, though. I do feel like there is a possibility of this happening. And one of the biggest reasons, in my opinion, is going to be the sheer amount of free agents we've got coming up in the 21 season. Next year, we've got a lot of free agents that we're going to have to pay. And I'll read off some of them to you guys here. We'll show a picture of Desmond as we do it. The highlighted players, I'll go over the ones that are most important here in a second, but here are the Chargers 2021 free agents. Tyrod Taylor, Keenan Allen, Darius Jennings, Hunter Henry, Virgil Green, Stephen Anderson, so like all of our tight ends minus, Parham, Sam Tevy, Trenton Scott, Forrest Lamp, Dan Feeney, Cole Toner, Mike Pouncey, Joey Bosa. That's going to be an expensive contract. Melvin Ingram, Isaac Rochelle, Denzel Perryman, Nick Vigil, Desmond King, obviously, Michael Davis, Brandon Fashion, I think that's how you say his name, Rashawn Jenkins, and Michael Badgley. The big names you guys are familiar with there, Tyrod Taylor, Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, Mike Pouncey, Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, Desmond King, Denzel Perry, Michael Badgley. Those are going to be fairly large contracts. And the Chargers do have a pretty good footing as far as our cap space is concerned in 21, especially if we're going to be riding, with our first round quarterback, Justin Herbert. His contract should allow us a little bit more flexibility with our cap space going forward. But that doesn't change the fact that, maybe Desmond King isn't at the highest part of the totem pole when it comes to paying out players going forward, because when you're rolling out with a fresh quarterback like Justin Herbert, I feel like Tyrod Taylor is probably going to start for a majority, if not all, of the season. But next year, I definitely think that it's going to be given to Justin Herbert. And when you got a fresh guy coming in like that, when you got a new quarterback, a new scheme, a new look in Los Angeles, you're going to want to give him all of the chances to succeed on offense, especially, a defense is very important too, and there's some big pieces that might be on the move next year. But you definitely want to re-sign a guy like Keenan Allen, and he's going to cost a bit. You definitely want to sign a guy like Hunter Henry. He's going to cost a bit. Our offensive line, Mike Pouncey, he's a decent center, guys. Even though he's not truly the best center in the league, he's really good, and really good is better than what we've had in the past. That's just on offense right there, guys. And those are the pieces you definitely want to keep. Definitely want to keep that for Justin Herbert. But on defense, holy cow, dudes. Joey Bosa, that's going to be a big contract. We cannot let Joey Bosa walk. Melvin Ingram, he still has gas in the tank, in my opinion. If he doesn't show very many signs of regression this year, we got to re-sign him, dudes. I really still like guys like Isaac Rochelle. Maybe Denzel Perryman can walk, depending on how he plays this year, if he can stay healthy. Nick Vigil, maybe he's pretty good. Our cornerbacks, the depth is about to be gone. Michael Davis, Brandon Fashion. And then guys, even maybe not of this year, but in the upcoming years, like Derwin James might get extended here really soon. That's going to be a really expensive contract. That's something to definitely take in consideration. Maybe Desmond King isn't at the top of the totem pole, and that's some reason why people are thinking maybe trade him now while we can get something for him before he walks next year. We have depth at cornerback. We have depth at, defensive back in general. Why not get something before he walks? Because, the potential we see in him from his days performing a couple years ago, he's really, really good in the slot. Other teams are going to see that too. So maybe there's a trade that could happen that benefits the Chargers, letting go a little bit of depth in this position that we have some bangers at to address another position of need. So those are some of the reasons why I think he's on the trade block in some people's minds. Let's go over some of the reasons that I have written down here. So we've already talked about the contract ending. Can he have a bounce back season? That's a big part of it. He did have a down season last year. Can he bounce back from that? Again, I think he can. Like I said, I don't define a player by a down year. I define a player by their ability to get back up and get back to where they were. And I feel like Desmond King is young enough where he can accomplish that. I really do think that maybe last year could have been a fluke. I'm not ready to give up on him. Does he fit? That's a big thing that people are asking right now too, with Chris Harris Jr. maybe taking the slot position assignments. If it were me, I would keep the Chargers cornerback depth intact. Depth is never a bad thing to have on a team, especially someone like the Chargers who do tend to get hit by the injury bug every single year. Why not keep Desmond King, even if he's just a depth player? And I wouldn't say he's a depth player at all. If they want to move him to safety, if they want to utilize him in different packages, if they want to put him in the slot and then Chris Harris on the outside in some packages, I would highly recommend that, man. That's a really talented player you've got on the field. Make sure you utilize him in some way. Keep him in there. Keep him on the depth chart. And I don't really think that Harris is going to take, the full-time slot position assignments either. I think that Chris Harris is going to play a lot on the outside. And I think if I remember right, guys, post in the comment section below if you found the article. I think I did read something about him saying that he'll play anywhere and he'll likely play a lot on the outside this year. So I don't know. And again, with Desmond King maybe moving to safety, you can still utilize him. Now, the reasons that you need to keep Desmond King, like I said, he's a good player. We've seen it. He's a good player. Don't get rid of good players, especially if they're young. Especially if they're young. That's a big point that I want to keep across here, guys. The Chargers defensive backcourt outside of Derwin James, outside of guys like Alohi Gilman, Nasir Adderley, it's getting a little bit older there at cornerback. Casey Hayward and Chris Harris Jr., both older cornerbacks. In a couple of years, can we see ourselves re-signing, guys like Chris Harris and Casey Hayward? I don't know, dude. Just because of their age, not because I have doubts that they're not talented enough, but because I feel like those cornerbacks, re-signing a guy at the age 33, maybe 34, that doesn't tend to happen in the NFL. What's going to happen at that point? I know that's a couple years down the road. We could draft a guy, we could sign a new guy, but at the same time, we have a guy right now, Desmond King, who is fairly young. I would like to have at least one of those guys from the OG, you know, like, what do we call it, the Jack Boys, on the roster when that time comes. We may lose Desmond King and Chris Harris Jr. at the same time. What's our defense, what's our cornerbacks going to look like at that time? I would like to still have Desmond King on the roster, you know, to mentor maybe some young guys that we draft, maybe some other guys that we add into the equation. I have faith that Desmond King's going to remain elite at the slot position. You know what I mean? So when the day comes that we don't have Casey Hayward, Chris Harris, we still have Desmond King. That to me is very important. I don't want to trade away young talent. I don't want to trade away young players that could add to our defense later down the road. And I don't think Desmond King, especially, you know, this year, if he does improve, we'll probably have, you know, a large number we're going to have to pay him out with, but not as large as other guys. So I think he's going to be a reasonable contract. You know, we're going to be in that term where Justin Herbert's on the roster, so not having a massive quarterback cap that we're going to have to pay out does help his situation a little bit. So in my opinion, you have a young guy, you know, we've got other, you know, cornerbacks that are maybe a little bit older. You keep your young pieces, you keep your talented pieces. So that's just me. I mean, some of the trades that have been floating around there that we could possibly get back from Desmond King, taking a look at the Vikings, you know, they're weak at cornerback. Maybe they can give us a guy like Riley Reif, their left tackle, which, again, we're addressing a position of need by getting rid of somebody that we have, you know, a really lot of depth at. Could be beneficial, but again, I don't know if I like that. Possible trades. I think I read this one on Bolt Beat. We can get, you know, Chris Jones. We can trade King and maybe a high pick for Chris Jones, but I don't like trading to a division rival because I know that, you know, King would be absolutely incredible with the Chiefs if we ended up trying to do that. So I don't want to see that. You know, Kyle Rudolph and a mid-round pick for Desmond King is a possibility. Kenny Stills and a late pick for Desmond King is a possibility. Carlos Dunlap and a mid pick is a possibility, and then Malik Jenkins and a third is a possibility from what I've read. But looking at all of those options, looking at what we have, I want to keep Desmond King. That's my opinion. I don't know if I don't want to move him. I want to keep him on the roster. I want him to, you know, be one of those pieces that we build around in the future as our cornerbacks, as our defensive backs continue to get older. It's mainly those two guys on the outside that I'm worried about. If we have a slot, a really, really decent slot receiver or slot cornerback, sorry if I've been saying receiver, slot cornerback that we can count on in Desmond King, I don't want him to move away from this team. What do you guys think in the comment section below? I don't mind if you guys disagree with me. There's some guys out there that think, you know, maybe we should trade Desmond King while we can. Some guys think the same way about Melvin Ingram. Maybe I'll talk about that here in a little while too, but I don't know, guys. Well, again, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm really interested to seeing what the overall perspective is of Chargers fans and whether or not to keep King or not, but in my opinion, again, he's a keeper in my opinion. Well, guys, that's all we got for today. We'll come back here very soon with another Chargers video. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like these kinds of Chargers content, hit us up with a like and sub. We'll see you next time, and as always, stay frosty.